I guess since Ways and Means got here, we can go ahead and get started. Where's y'all's illustrious leader? No, I'm Ways and Means Chairman. Okay. I think we're going to have to do like the speaker does, lock the door and keep it locked. Yeah, that would cause a panic, wouldn't it? Be stuck in here in rules. Yeah. Okay. All right, folks, time to get started. Chairman Williamson, would you open us with prayer, please?
Yes, sir. Let's pray. Gracious God, we just come for you today for all the praise and thanksgiving in our heart for this day that you've given us. Lord, may we be ever mindful of the needs of the citizens in Georgia and do our best to follow your will in the decisions we make. Bless our families and those that serve this capital. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, sir. Oh, just a little housekeeping kind of thing. When your bill passes out of committee, we do not see it until the clerk reads it. We do not see the bill until the clerk reads it on the floor. If it passes out Wednesday afternoon, the clerk will get it Thursday morning, read it, and then it'll come to us. So we don't see it before then. Because we're always getting questions out, where's my bill? It's not on the blue sheet. Well, that's the reason why, maybe. Though there's other reasons it may not make the blue sheet too, but that's one of them. Okay, the wall's getting a little longer. I'm going to put Mr. Petrie at the back of the line. He won't start talking over there to Mr. Powell. Okay, let's see. We got 3 men in front of you. I want 3 gentlemen in front of you. Ms. Hagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I bring House Bill 237 to you this morning. It passed unanimously out of the Special Rules Committee last week. This bill would name the Southeast Georgia Soapbox Derby, which is run out of Lyons, as the official soapbox derby of Georgia. This derby began in 1992 with 20 cars competing in only one age division, and 31 years later, the race has grown to an average of 60 drivers ages 7 to 20 competing in 3 age divisions and 1 division that is specifically for drivers with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Young people from around Georgia and several states participate in about 16 races held in Lyons each year to qualify for the World Championship, which is held in Akron, Ohio every summer. With a stated mission of building knowledge and character and creating meaningful experiences through collaboration, fair and honest competition, and a STEM curriculum, I think this is a bill that we can all be happy about supporting. This positive impact that this program has on the lives of young people cannot be overstressed, and in a time when our children and youth face so many negative influences, this is exactly the type of program that we need more of in Georgia. So that is the bill, Mr. Chairman, and I do ask for your favorable consideration on it.
All right, very good. No questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Corbett. Identify your bill number, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Second page of the blue sheet, very top one, House Bill 268. We're working off House Bill 268, LC 393773S.
Oh, before you get started, remember, the The version of the bill that you have in that notebook is the official version. It's the one that the clerk's office put in there. So it's not some strange one. It's the clerk's, it's the bill that passed the committee. Okay, so go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What we're doing with House Bill 268, we're establishing the Georgia Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Advisory Board. This board will be housed in the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and the council, subject to available funding, will establish a grant program to fund local law enforcement agencies and multi-jurisdictional task forces to prevent reduction and investigation of motor vehicle and motor vehicle parts theft. The purpose of the board will be to receive applications from local law enforcement agencies and then make recommendations to the council as to which ones to fund. What we're trying to do with this bill, local law enforcement agencies across the state have been grappling with auto theft crimes, especially when it comes to, either stealing the whole vehicle or parts. Mainly catalytic converters has been extremely a huge issue all over the state, as well as insurance fraud and even more. Other states have implemented this type of program. They might call it a commission. We're calling it an advisory board. And this will be funded by grants, federal grants, or private donations from private companies is how this will be funded. We're not obligating any state money. These grants will help local law enforcement agencies tackle problems with limited personnel, equipment, technology, access to data, boundary and jurisdictional issues. And that's what we're doing with this bill. I know most people here are probably old enough to remember McGriff, the crime dog. This is to help us take a bite out of crime.
Okay, Chairman Jaspers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. But you need to use the voice with the take a bite out of crime.
Yeah.
Just, Chairman Corbett, just a quick question. Would this Crime Prevention Abuse Council be able to take a look at the abuse of dealer tags, and used car dealer tags especially, that's in our state?
I believe that would fall under the purview of what they could absolutely do here as well. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Is there a mechanism to identify what kind of federal funding you're anticipating?
I've been on the conversation a little bit with the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, and I've heard them talk about a COPS grant. I'm not sure what that grant does. I wasn't on the full conversation the other day, but that would be one of the grants they would go after. But then several of the agencies that were in support of this bill, they're willing for private donations. Some of these companies, some of these rental car companies, are losing hundreds of thousands of dollars every year with catalytic converter theft. So, and the private donations is there too. We just got to get something established where they can make the donation too.
Okay, all right. I see no questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I have some handouts. Would it be helpful to have Leo pass these around?
No, just go ahead and make
Just hang on to them. All right, I'm going to put them right there. Mr. Chairman, I bring to you today on your blue sheet, third down, House Bill 136, it's LC 442166. This bill is really a simple public safety measure that relates to transparency in our Department of Corrections. And so what this bill simply requires is that the Department of Corrections every quarter post the list of criminal illegals in our correctional system. And the data that I have before me here, I'll give you an example of this. This is only ICE detainers. Now remember, not everyone who is in our correctional system who has committed a crime in this state has an ICE detainer. Not even everyone who's committed a violent crime has an ICE detainer. However, currently in Georgia today, there are 1,524 ICE detainers in this state. Those are individuals that have come to the country illegally and subsequently committed a violent or a sexual crime on this list. There are 230 child molesters in our current correctional system with ICE detainers, 176 murders, 157 rapes, the list goes on. And so what I want, we as legislators in this state can't do anything to really affect illegal immigration. And this bill has nothing to do with legal immigration at all. And quite frankly, it has nothing to do with immigration. It's about transparency in our public safety system. But what we can do is provide that. So we can't control whether or not our federal government controls our borders and our visa systems. But what we can do is let the people of this state have access to the degree to which this issue affects their public safety. And that is simply what this bill does, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad to answer any questions.
Okay, you got a couple. Mr. Park.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it not true that this information is already publicly available, that this bill would do nothing to increase public safety other than perpetuate the false narrative that immigrants are dangerous criminals?
Well, first of all, it doesn't do that at all. I don't know why you would make that assumption. What it does is point to this, sir, is fact. You can't dispute this. And so, I disagree with that altogether, but let me say this. So this information is not available. What there is on the website today is individually, by the way, what I want is aggregated data to the members of this body. I want aggregated data. No names, nothing. Just how many, what crimes have they committed. So, as I pointed out in this document, 230 child molesters. I want the people to be aware of that. That information is not available unless someone goes online and looks through every member, every individual, all 50 some odd thousand of them in the correctional system, and tries to determine whether or not they're here illegally or not. That simply is not accurate, sir.
Does the gentleman further yield? May I ask
One more question.
So for what would you do with this information?
Listen, it's not for me to do. Listen, the people have a right to know how their public safety is being impacted. And so you can look at this information, Representative. You may look at just this simple ICE detainer list, which is a subset of illegal criminals in our system, and you may say, wow, there's only 1,524 violent and sexual offenders in our system? That's nothing. So you may determine this isn't an issue. But someone else in the room may look at it like my constituents do and go, I had no idea. I had no idea that this was the case. I had no idea this issue was impacting the people of this state like it is. So it's not my job to do anything with it. It's my job to see that, and I hope all of our jobs to see that there's transparency in government, and that's what this bill does, sir.
Okay. Dr. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one question. Did these detainees, it sounds like they might be in the thousands. Does that paid for by federal funds or state funds? And if so, do we know if they're being detained? Is there a rate?
$60 a day. We're paying for that.
State of Georgia.
Remember, this is not every criminal illegal. These are just ICE detainers, but in the aggregate, yeah, it's $60 a day, as I understand it from the department, to care for a prisoner in our system. That's correct. So, I mean, that's, I don't know. So to the earlier question, we don't really know how many criminal illegals are in our system right now because nobody's tracking it. I think it's information the public has a right to have. Thank you, sir, for the question.
Okay, who's 28? Is that you, Alan? Okay, well, I'll cut you off then. All right, Representative Hughley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To Representative Petrie, is this data going to show how all prisoners are being treated? My constituents want to know if they have someone in our criminal justice system, are they being raped? Are they suffering violent attacks and all of that? And with the shortage of personnel, who's supposed to do this?
Well, so this is nothing. So this is nothing more than the department on its website, Representative, aggregating the data that they have. So our correctional system currently works, and we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in this state to train our staff and to buy the equipment necessary to work with a program called 287G. What we do when we admit an inmate, we communicate with ICE to determine whether they're here illegally or not. None of that information is being made available to the public, but that's what we're doing already. So there is no increased cost to do this. And to the issue of how this might relate to how prisoners are treated in custody, this has nothing to do with that. This is simply providing information that we already have, and the department making that information available to the public on its public website. But thank you, Representative, for the question.
Chairman Jaspers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Petrie, about this data, its availability not make it easier for all of us to advocate for, funding for law enforcement, and especially for gang activity suppression, which kind of a root coming from all this?
I think that's an excellent point, Representative. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, that's all. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Come on up. What's your bill number?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is on the second page of your blue sheet, House Bill 480. And what this bill basically does is just give the opportunity of a hard-working Georgia workers to be able to increase their death benefits, have the opportunity to increase death benefits, and to increase the benefits they have if they get hurt on the job. And that's what this bill does.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the current compensation for workers' comp? What is the current payment?
The current payment for the temporary injuries is $725. That's going to raise up to $800.
Is that total or?
That's total. Well, no, that's per week.
That's what I was asking.
Yes, sir. And then partial insured is $483. This is going to raise it to $533. And then total compensation is going to go from $290,000 to $320,000.
Okay, I see no more questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
I don't know if I'll let him up here or not. Come on up. He sits behind me on the floor, and between him and a couple others, there's a. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I bring you House Bill 162, second page of the blue sheet. This is part of the governor's initiative and package that he's bringing, something he's been talking about for over the past year. HB 162 kind of mirrors what we all passed a year ago with HB 1302. This HB 162 deals with the 2021 and 2022 tax credit back to the citizens of Georgia. It has, for single payers, it gives back $250. For dependents, head of households, it does $375, and for joint filers, it does $500. The only difference between HB 1302 and HB 162 this year is the Chick-fil-A high school scholars will be eligible to claim this refund as a single filer, which is the $250 mark. This is because the governor's efforts to reopen the economy and your leadership, Mr. Chairman, with the conservative managed state budget, we're able to do this for the taxpayers of Georgia.
Okay. Mr. Beverly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is the aggregate cost that the state of Georgia is going to absorb because we do this tax credit? What is the aggregate cost?
There's no cost. This is this is in the Revenue Department surplus that will be going back. There's nothing in the budget that is dealing with this bill.
Further question, just for
Yes, sir.
point of clarification. You said it's already a part of surplus. How much of the surplus do we use to actually give this tax?
I cannot understand. I'm
How
sorry.
much of the tax credit, what is the amount of money that we use out of the surplus to offset this tax credit?
It's a little over $1 billion that'll be going back total, and it's based on you had to file your 21-22 taxes. So if you didn't file those, you were not eligible for this tax credit.
Chairman Martin.
If I may, isn't it true what we're doing here is we set a budget every year, we have set a revenue estimate, we take that money, we apply it to the appropriations through a process, and isn't it true that in this case we just collected more than we needed and we're giving it back to the people that sent it to us, and actually it wasn't our money in the first place?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I don't see any more questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Gamble, I'll be kind to you today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm House Resolution 66. It's on your back page at the very bottom. I bring you this legislation on behalf of the governor, and it's basically to ratify the executive orders since May of 2022 to suspend the collection of motor fuel and diesel fuel taxes, which were pursuant to the supply chain state of emergency. So this is more of a procedural step. It was about $1.7 billion, roughly $150 million to $170 million per month that was suspended, and we need to do this as a procedural step to approve that.
Chairman Stevens.
Isn't it true that during this period of time of about a $1.7 billion amount that we had the cheapest gas in the country?
That is true.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's not true that I appreciate the cost of gas when it went down, but for clarification, why is it that the governor does not have this authority? Because we're approving something that we can't undo anyhow. So why in the world is that not an executive power? And if not, shouldn't we do it like that?
I would say that I prefer that we leave it the way it is right now, because it does give us the final authority to approve this. And I would disagree with you that if we don't approve this, this money could technically be clawed back from the wholesalers, and we don't want to go down that path. So this is, again, just a procedural step that we need to do to approve what has been done. We approved this last March when we were here, and then, of course, the session ended, and the governor was able to do it under the emergency declaration for those months carrying forward to January of this year.
One follow-up. I'd certainly like to see how we're going to claw back money from wholesalers.
I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And if you support this bill, we won't have to see it.
No.
Okay, no more questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Crow.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is House Bill 138. It is back page, third one down under structured rule. This is a bill coming back from last year, had the same legislation last year, passed the House unanimously, got caught up in the Senate, wasn't able to get through over there. What it does is it updates the population bracket that identifies Butts County, has to be updated every 10 years. And this legislation allows the residents on Jackson Lake on Georgia Power lease lots in Butts County to claim homestead exemption. This was a legislation that was introduced as far back prior to the 80s at least. And it has to be updated every 10 years when there's a new census to identify it. We missed last year, but 11 years ago, my predecessor had passed it. Chairman Knight, 10 years before that, when he represented Butts County, passed it. And we're just trying to update the bracket to the 2020 census numbers to identify Butts County.
Okay, I don't see any questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chairman Knight, I think you've got House Bill 95. Push your button, please, sir. There you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This is the annual IRC update bill. I've been carrying this bill for more years than I'd like to.
You and I came in together.
That is true, Mr. Chairman.
And you've carried it every year, I think, since I've been here.
We don't want to talk about how many years, Mr. Chairman. But, Mr. Chairman and committee, this is, quite frankly, the shortest, the most inconsequential as far as the fiscal data, the fiscal amount in regards to the IRC update bill. I'll remind everyone that every year the federal tax code is updated, and then Georgia takes and does its IRC update based upon what the feds do. And as always, I'll remind everyone the importance of getting this bill through quickly. As Georgia taxpayers are waiting for these changes must be signed into law, and then the preparers, but especially the software preparers, the tax software preparers must incorporate this law into their software. And so it's really urgent, as always, that we get this passed and get it to the governor's office as quick as we can for signature, so that those filing taxpayers can file accurately and timely.
Okay. Well, see no questions. Thank you, sir. Mr. Martin, I think you've got a couple. Let's do House Bill 36 right now.
6 is under the structure rule on your last page. This bill passed, it's the exact same form that we passed last year. It got caught up in the Senate. But what we seek to do is to allow taxpayers that have personal property, personal property, not real property, to appeal directly to a hearing officer. Right now, if you have complex personal property, you appeal, you go directly to a Board of Equalization as your first level of appeal, and that's just 3 citizens. They don't have the technical knowledge on some of this complex property, so you invariably get to Superior Court, and we all know our Superior Court systems are clogged on that appeal. So this gives the taxpayer the option to go to a hearing officer, not a requirement, but the option to go to a hearing officer to unclog our system and move the appeal process forward. That's all the bill does, Mr. Chairman, and I'll take any questions.
I don't see any questions. Let's go to 319.
Yes, sir. 319 is a cleanup that it was brought to us by the Georgia Student Finance, President Riley. The Georgia Higher Education Assistance Corporation hasn't been active in 10 years. It used to maintain a certain set of loans, federal loans. Those were sold to another state over 10 years ago, and the corporation had to stay around until those were taken care of. It's no longer needed. The bill's length is because that corporation is referred to in many places in the code. But this simply dissolves something within the student finance, a portion of that bureaucracy that's not needed, that doesn't function. By doing this, we would return somewhere in the neighborhood of $25 million to the state, and would be available for education.
Okay. I see no
Shrinking government.
I see no questions. Does anybody else have anything they need to present? Okay. One little item that we have to take care of before we set the calendar for, day 23. Do I hear a move that we recommit House Bill 213? Move. Got a move and a second. It's gone. All right. I guess the time now is to set the calendar for day 23, which is tomorrow. All right, let's see what we got here. Under modified open, do I hear a move on House Bill 165? Move. It's on. Do I hear a move on House Bill 142 under modified structure? Got a move. It's on. Do I hear under modified structure House Bill 222? Do I hear a move? Got a move and second on. It's on. House Bill 319. Do I hear a move under modified structure? Got a move and a second. It's on. Under structured rule, House Bill 36, do I hear a move? It's on. House Bill 95, do I hear a move? It's on. House Bill 138, do I hear a move? It's on. House Bill 162, do I hear a move? It's on. House Bill, or H.R. 66, H.R. 66, do I hear a move? It's on. That's the calendar for day 23. Let's run through them one more time under modified open. 165, under modified structured, 142, 222, 319, and then structured, 36, 95, 138, 162, and 66. That's the calendar for day 23. Thank y'all.